want, first of all, to my white brothers and sisters, when you're tempted to preface something by saying this isn't racist, maybe you should check yourself and think about it, because it probably is. And second of all, if you, she put on a clinic in white privilege, because really, white privilege is many things, but one of those things is letting yourself stay ignorant enough to use slavery as a metaphor for something you don't like about government. As Cynthia said, the debt does not let someone rape their slaves. The debt does not come and take her child Piper out of her arms. So, you know, this is the white grievance industry, where she does a really fun thing in there, you know, where she's like, oh, go ahead and try, because being told that you shouldn't use slavery as a metaphor, that's discrimination. That's racist against white people. My God, what are you guys doing to us?
Yeah, I'll just go at the beginning. She said to my white brothers and sisters, okay, I want to say this to Joan, and I want to say this to anybody who claims me as a brother or sister because of the color of my skin. I am not your brother or sister if it's based on race. I'm not. I find it silly. I find it, quite frankly, disgusting. And however it's used, I again, not going to spend my life being a color. And yeah, I get it. She's making a point, but still, again, who really views things that way? Just to tell you, it's like when somebody gets up and goes, I speak for white people. No, you don't. Not this white guy. Because oftentimes it's somebody who's on the Moron Patrol All-Star team. That's what it is. Someone whose greatest claim to fame is being on the Jerry Springer stage. Maybe picking up a chair, maybe not. maybe they put up signs in front of places talking about how God hates specific groups. I laugh because it's ridiculous. I tire of it. But again, I think there will be a fashion show between the Moron All-Star team. I'll say this again. I think the KKK and the Westboro Baptist Church, I don't know how they're going to enter, because I think they're just going to bring their signs. And the Black Panthers are going to have you've heard of a dance-off where they go back and forth. Well, this is going to be like a fashion show. Who's got better fashion? Hey, when I deal with the absurd, I get absurd. It happens. If you're offended by it, I'm sorry for you. Eat a cheeseburger. No bun. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Now we give you Sarah Palin's reaction to this, because they tried to make something out of this. The left tries to make something out of this. Yeah, they don't talk about Biden and y'all are going to be in chains and all that stuff. I mean, who doesn't think slavery was absolutely awful? Who doesn't speak out against slavery? Well, many on the left, because we do have chattel slavery still existing in parts of Africa. We do, yeah. And it's Islamic on Christian. Yeah. Black Christians. But, hey, if I want to talk about that, I guess that's stuff we don't really talk about, because it deals with Christian persecution, and we really don't want to talk about that at all, even though it's one of the biggest stories around, and still goes on and continues, between Jewish and Christian persecution by Muslims. I mean, big, lot of news there, but remember, we don't really cover all that. We've got to cover fake hate crimes. And then give 1/10 of the coverage we give when we find out it was perpetrated by the group that supposedly was being targeted and was violated. Don't talk about that. Okay, all right. Let me get back to Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin was asked by Jake Tapper about this. CNN. Here is Jake Tapper asking Sarah Palin about invoking slavery. Roll it.
Obviously, you don't literally mean it's like slavery, which cost millions of people their lives, and there was rape and torture. You're using it as a metaphor, but don't you ever worry that by using that kind of language, you risk obscuring the point you're trying to make?
There is another definition of slavery, and that is being beholden to some kind of master that is not of your choosing. And Yes, the national debt will be like slavery when the note comes due.
So you're not worried. I mean, I'm taking it as a no, that you're not concerned about the language.
I'm not one to be politically correct, evidently, and
Okay.
no, I don't worry about things like that, because no matter what I say, no matter what a lot of conservatives say, they'll be targeted, and distractions will be attempted to be made to take the listener and the viewer's mind off what the point is by pointing out, oh, she said the word slavery in a speech, and I did say the word slavery because I want to make a point.
All right, now, do I have to go back and cover what the president has done racially to divide this country? If we want to talk about that, because it is a problem. We do have people willing to divide our country based on the color of one's skin. Like Michael Jackson, I'm not going to spend my life being a color. It's true. The song's black and white, yeah. And black or white, pardon me. So I get that from Jake Tapper, and he does it, just so that we're clear. I feel bad for Jake Tapper because I think he believes it's just a stupid controversy, if it is a controversy at all. But mind you, this is what they hang on to. This is what they have to go to. This is what they have to do, because they have to. Hey, the narrative is racists, Tea Party, and they can't let that go, because if they said something along the lines of, what would they say about the Tea Party? Oh, they want to live within the Constitution. Tea Party formed under President Bush, not necessarily President Obama, and they've spoken out against both Democrats and Republicans, and the entrenched interest are against them because incumbents want to protect their power. But hey, they would have to address that, so they just got to keep on spewing this. Jake Tapper's like, you don't really believe that. And he follows up, and here is part 2 of what Sarah Palin responded. Roll it.
I can, if they choose to misinterpret what it is that I'm saying. And again, I'm sure if we opened up a dictionary, we could prove that with semantics that are various, we can prove that there is a definition of slavery that absolutely fits the bill there when I'm talking about a bankrupt country that will owe somebody something down the line if we don't change things. That is, we will be shackled. We will be a slave to those whom we owe.
Now, he asked if you could understand, pardon me, I should have said that in the beginning, if you could understand how people are offended. I can if they choose to distort it and misinterpret it, sure. Yeah, anybody can understand if you choose to take something, but that's, the problem is not me, it's the fact that they're not interpreting it with what I would call an intellectually honest lens. But think about this for a second, okay? Between Sarah Palin and other conservatives, Sarah Palin has been called every name in the book. And what she did there was she highlighted some things. And I really think this is important. She highlighted something about what the left tries to do and why oftentimes as conservatives, we are saying, look, I want to preface this, or we reference the coming attack, no matter how ridiculous, how without grounds the attack will be. We have to reference it. And part of that's the politically correct culture. Part of that is the fact that overwhelmingly the messages, because of the amount of messengers and the size of their bullhorn over the last 40 plus years, has put forth a false narrative. And so we have to challenge the false narrative, which really takes up a lot of time. And it's funny because I feel sometimes I'm aware of this, because as a talk show host, I will say something and I'll be like, look, I don't mean this in this way. So I just want to say to you, first, look at my heart. And I don't only say that to you for me, but me to you and everybody. Take a look at my heart. But in politics, it becomes about sinking your opponent, ideological opponent. Now, if you're a Christian conservative, if you're a conservative, oftentimes you have policies that work and recognize human nature, and when you don't, if you're on the left, you got emotion. And the Oliver Stone interpretation of history. Main Street versus Wall Street and the nonsense there. And when you start talking about things like the record with the results of policies, or you mention Republican Party versus Democratic Party when it comes to race and civil rights, wow, got to look at the Republican Party as being far better than the Democratic Party. But that's not a part of what has been told to people for 30 plus years, even 40 plus years, even people within the movement of civil rights that was actually going on at the place, because they've said it enough. And I'm just tired of it. And people say we have to, advisors say when to win elections, to get in power, to be able to legislate, not about R's or D's, but to actually get things passed or make sure certain justices are sitting on the bench that interpret the Constitution and not rewrite it, not look in it and say, oh, penumbra in the shadows here. No. To do that, what we have to do is we've got to placate that side. We've got to appease in some way and modify our policies. Think about the amnesty debate. We can't win without amnesty. Conservatives can't win without amnesty. I realize this is a divide between the Republican Party and some economic, quote, conservatives versus other conservatives, cultural and otherwise, and I'd even say there's divisions within the cultural conservatives, social conservatives. And I get that. Christian conservatives are divided on this. But what they are offering there is they say, basically, you have to, in order for people not to think of you as racist, you have to sacrifice the rule of law here. Because if you don't, if you oppose it on principled grounds, they're going to lie about you and the lie's going to win, so you better just give up. And then by losing and sacrificing the rule of law, which is the foundation, you'll win in the long run. Now, there are some who are saying, hey, look, I truly believe this is the way to go. Let's not punish these people. And they make the argument in that way. And I appreciate their point of view, but I look at it with the rule of law. I look at it through economics, and I say, I really just look at it through the rule of law. I mean, you can't really undermine it and say, we still have it. But if you want to go economically at what it does, it's quite destructive. So there are people who are not necessarily in support of amnesty who don't go with you have to sacrifice your principles. They just have this viewpoint. But when you fall out here, when I saw President Bush and John McCain getting together, and this is where I really opposed President Bush, because I saw them go into the same arguments about race and about how there was a grain or element of racism with this particular opposition to amnesty. And I thought to myself, wow, that's sad. But that's the nature of politics. You grip and you grab something in order to win. And sometimes people make the argument the ends justify the means. Amnesty will elect a permanent liberal majority, not classical liberal, the liberal left majority in this country, period. If you have any concept of human nature and recognize it doesn't evolve, that's what will happen. Now, I'm glad it's stalled, but it's not going away because the left knows this. And there are those on the right who, as I said, there are some feelings on this, their position. But bottom line, that's what happens. But it also does something else. It destroys what we have. And we don't even realize we have it because we take it for granted. Now, it's been abrogated a fair amount under President Obama. I asked Hans von Spakovsky about this in the beginning of the show, about the rule of law, about accountability. But once you do this, and once you put it into place, look at what Obamacare and all the regulations that have been written in, and the expansion of defined powers where you sit back and you go, wait a second, the definition, this allows, it's not interpreted, it's nebulous. Look at that. And it's a Trojan horse. Opens up everything. It opens the fact that insurance companies, if you keep Obamacare and you have the government determining what an insurance company spends on patient care, it has to be 80% or whatever it may be on solely patient care, and you give the government the power to play that game, it's over. The insurance, without repealing Obamacare truly, it's over. We're going to single payer. So the overall point of this is look at what they have to grip and hold on to and have to keep putting out there. And look at what we get to put out there, which is the truth. And we can speak truth and love and be salt and light. We don't have to lie, and that's beautiful. But it's not easy when the majority of the messengers are telling something that's not true. So what I say to you is, hey, keep the faith. Live with honor in your life, compassion in your heart. Remember to always keep the faith in Jesus Christ. And know that God loves you, God knows you, He created you. He has a plan for you, and you're worth it. We'll see you next time. Like the Facebook page, AFR Talk.